Hey guys, let's talk about slope-intercept form of a line. So slope-intercept form is what you probably remember the most from pre-algebra and algebra 1, that y equals mx plus b. So when we write an equation of a line, that m stands for the slope. So we'll be putting a number in for where the m is. The b stands for the y-intercept, and that means that we are going to be putting a number in for b. So every line in slope-intercept form is going to be y equals some number x plus some number, or minus, or whatever. So, all right, so the big thing to remember is slope is the guy with your variable with the x on it, and the y-intercept is your constant or your plain old number. Okay, cool. So let's talk about how to graph let me move me over a little bit. There we go. Let's talk about how to graph a line in slope-intercept form. So the first thing you want to do is you want to plot your y-intercept. So in this line, 4 is my y-intercept. So it's that guy that doesn't have an x on it. So on my y-axis right here, I'm going to go up to 4 and put a dot right there on my y-axis. The second thing we're going to do, I'm going to scroll down a little bit so that way I can write this down. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to use slope. And remember, slope is rise over run. To find more points. All right. So we're going to use our slope to find more points. If you need another second to write that down, make sure you pause me. I'm going to go ahead and scroll back up now. All right, so I want to go through, and my slope here is 3/4. So with that 3, I want to rise 3, and I want to run 4. So from my y-intercept right here at 4, I'm going to start right there, and I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then go to the right 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's my next point. You can also go backwards. So you can also go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and to the left 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's another point on our line. Now, the most important part about graphing a line is actually drawing this stinking line. I can't tell you how many times kids just put a bunch of dots. And that's not a line. That's a bunch of points. So when we're graphing this line, make sure that we draw a line right there. Beautiful. Through all of my points. All right. So do me a favor. I know it says example 2 right here, but go ahead and scroll down and try example 3 and plot that line, and let's see if we get the same answer. So first you plotted that y-intercept there at 5, and then so since our slope is -3, remember that's the same thing as -3 over 1, or the same thing as +3 over -1. So I could either rise -3, which means goes down 3 and to the right 1, and that's how I got this point right here. And then to get the point on the left, I had to go up 3 and to the left 1. So we can still kind of put those negatives where we'd like them to be. All right, so now let's look at how to find the equation of a line given 2 points in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to move myself over here a little bit. Let's take a look at this guy. So we want to find the equation of a line that passes through the points in slope-intercept form. All right, so the first thing we want to do, so we want to write it in slope-intercept form, right? So it tells us the 2 things that we need to have, a slope and a y-intercept. So remember, the first thing we want to find is slope. Oops. I'm somewhere else, sorry. Okay, there we go. Number 1, slope. Remember, that's the letter M up in the y equals mx plus b. So just in case we forgot, remember it's y over x. It's fun to do slope with y over x. So I'm going to have y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. If it's helpful to go through and label these points, absolutely do so. If you don't need to, then you don't need to. Don't worry about it. All right, so I'm going to take my y2 minus my y1 over my x2 minus my x1. So I have 5 minus 3 over negative 2 minus 1. Then we'll simplify. 5 minus 3 is negative, or not negative 2, haha, nope. Just 2 over, and then negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. So I have 2 over negative 3, so my slope is going to be negative 2/3. Sound good? Beautiful. So we have the slope now, so that is half the battle done. So we have the slopes, now all we need is that y-intercept. And remember, that's the letter b in y equals mx plus b. So that's actually the first thing I want to do. I like to write out y equals mx plus b and see what we can fill things in for. So I know that m, my slope, is negative 2/3. We just found that a second ago. But then we have stuff for x and y and b. Well, we're trying to solve for b right now, right? So we're just going to have a little plus b over there. But for x and y, we actually have two different options. Remember, this 1, 3, there's an x, there's a y. With this negative 2, 5, there's an x, there's a y. So we can use either one of these points to plug in for x and y. And we should get the exact same answer, whichever coordinate we decided to use. Okay? So to me, 1, 3 is easier to work with than negative 2, 5. If you don't feel the same way, then you can use negative 2, 5. I don't care. We're going to get the same answer. Isn't math wonderful? So I'm going to use negative 1, 3 to plug in for x and y. So that means that right here where my y was, I'm going to put my y value, which was 3. And right here where my x was, I'm going to put my x value of that point, which was 1. So I plugged in the point 3, 1 right here for x and y. So now we're just going to go through and solve for b. So negative 2/3 times 1 is negative 2/3. So 3 equals negative 2/3 plus b. To get negative 2/3 to the other side, I would have to add 2/3. So 3 plus 2/3 is 3 and 2/3 if you don't want to have to mess with fractions or something. And that's what b is going to be equal to. Okay, side convo. You can leave it like that as b. Please, no, you can absolutely leave it like that. If that bothers you and you want to write it as an improper fraction, which I prefer, here's what you're going to do. So the number 3 as some sort of thirds, I would have to have 9/3 for that to be equal to 3, right? And then I had another 2/3. So when I add those together, I end up with 11/3. So we can also use that as b in our equation. So to write this equation of this line, we have y equals negative 2/3 x plus 3 and 2/3. Or you might have y equals negative 2/3 x plus 11/3. Either one of these two options is completely wonderful, and I would celebrate that answer. All right, go ahead and try example 4 now and find the equation of that line on your own. All right, so hopefully the first thing you did was go and find your slope. So we took our y1 minus our y2 over our x1 minus our y2 minus our y1 over our x2 minus our x1. So we should end up with 7/5. No matter which one was x1, y1 and which one was x2, y2, we should end up with 7/5 for our slope. Then to find the y-intercept, I thought 0, negative 3 would be really easy to plug in, right? So I went ahead and plugged in 0, negative 3 for x and y into the equation that I had and 7/5 in for m. And then we go through and we solve for b. And then we just put our pieces in for m and b until y equals mx plus b, and we celebrate because we got that 7/5. The one thing I did want to mention to you is that if you saw 0, negative 3 and you thought, that guy's my y-intercept, so you knew that the y-intercept had to be negative 3, so you didn't go through and solve for b, totally fine, okay? Just whichever way you want to approach it is totally fine with me. All right, I'll see you guys a little bit later.